Sorry to change up the time. I'll be on a plane at 4, so this is the best time we can do it. Let me make sure it's working for Twitter. Why would the mic be off as a default? It just makes no sense. Please be kind to me, internet. Be kind, be kind. Oh my god. Why is the mic off? I don't understand. Oh, okay. No, why isn't it working? Okay, I think it's working now. Great. So, today we're talking about leading a family business. I'm sorry if there's noise in the background. Firstly, it's Friday, so we need to do our weekly check-ins, right? What worked, what didn't work, what are the wins, what are the successes? Are you reflecting on these things daily? It's also the end of the last night I did my end of the month review, and I went through all the different things I had said I wanted to do this month, the different intentions I had, my different goals, different priorities, and I decided to assess and measure. So I have two systems. At the end of the month, there's the 5 values which are most important to me, and I write about that. So that's qualitative reflection. So, like, was I intentional in those 5 qualities? Did I live that way this month? Did I remember to prioritize that, and they help guide my decisions? And then I also have a quantitative method. So I think I explained the wheel of life a few months ago. I've been doing it for a year now. So a friend of mine explained to me there's this thing called the wheel of life. I think I shared it somewhere. And you choose the top 10 categories that are important to you in your life, like work, family, your character, your health, your learning, fun. Everyone has different, like, top 10 things. I feel like these are slightly different from your core values because they're more detailed. So you look at the 10 areas of your life and you give yourself a score out of 10. And you have to imagine it like a wheel of, like, a car. If it was divided into 10 pieces and you had to give yourself a score out of 10 for each. So 0 is like this and then 10 is like this. The only way your life would work, if that's a wheel, the only way the wheel would roll efficiently is if all those areas were in balance. So if you have an area of your life which is 2 and an area of your life that's 8, it would be like a broken wheel, right? But we're so passive so much of the time. Life is so busy. We're not proactive and intentional in how we live, and yet it's what's important to us. So I thought it was a really cool exercise, and I sat down and I wrote all the different things that are important to me, and then I chose the top 10 categories. So now every month, at the end of the month, I give myself a score out of 10 in each category, and then I can see over the few months the trends. And you know how I always say, you gotta measure stuff if you want it to improve. It makes such a big difference. I can see the different areas in my life which I thought were important to me, but I was not putting in any effort. And after 6 months of getting 4 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 2 out of 10, I'm like, no. Now I see the trend. I have to be more intentional about the stuff every day, every week. So at the end of the month, I can hit a 7 out of 10. I tried, I achieved this. So it's a useful system, and it's helping me to be more authentic, to be more intentional, to live a life that I want to be, not just I'm busy doing all the things that everyone else expects of me or needs from me. It helps me to guide my decisions and to make sure that I'm making progress. Not that, oh my God, it's already end of March, 3 months of the year have gone. What have I done for myself this year? Am I making progress on my goals, my priorities? How are we moving? So it's a really useful exercise. I do that at the end of every month, and it helps me to stay focused for the next month. Because also, once you assess how this month was, you can plan for the next month. What are your goals for the next month? What are your challenges? What are your tasks? I start doing that, and at the beginning of each month, I also put, like, my big intentions and some quotes that are inspirational and motivational and remind me of what I want to achieve this month. I know that's a lot for reflection, but I feel like it's effective. And once you get used to doing it, it doesn't take a lot of time or energy, and it helps me to be more organized because also I do it for work, the different projects I'm working on, what worked, what didn't work, what do we need to do next month, start making lists and tasks and priorities. So it's a useful exercise that keeps me organized. I do this every week in a small way where I assess how did the week go, what am I taking off the to-do list, what am I adding, what am I changing, what needs other resources, and then at the end of the month I do it for my whole life. And then at the end of the year, you do like a big one, but that one takes days. but it's useful. That is what I would say about reflection. It's also the end of the first quarter, yo. 3 months are done for 2022. Time is moving. What have you done this quarter? 2021 was a long time ago. I feel like COVID put us all in like a blur of time, and time is moving, and now like things are getting back on normal, month, quarter, like every year counts. So it's time to get back into gear. I feel like even for me, it's been hard after going through like 2020 and slowing down so much. It's been so much harder to get back to like the normal speed of things, because also stuff is still uncertain, everything's still volatile, but things are looking up, I like to say. So today we're talking about leading a family business. I hope I have the questions up ready. Let's see. I posted a video about it, I think this week, about leading family businesses. Family businesses are interesting because it's not by choice usually that you're working with your family or in the family business. I think a lot of what I've experienced and a lot of my friends who are in family businesses, it was always kind of assumed you just be part of the business. And since you're young, you're like involved in the business. And it makes sense. It's your family, it's your legacy, it's what pays the bills, it's what puts you through school, it's what looks after everyone in your family, all your relatives. So it helps. I think with family businesses, you have to be, I don't want to say proactive, but you have to be more aware and then more clear on how you do things, because you have your skill set and you are a family member, but you have to make sure you match your skill set to you. So it's very tricky to make sure that what you're doing is in the best intentions for the business, but it's up to you to make sure that you are putting in your effort to do that. So just because you're a family member doesn't mean you should automatically be the leader. Just because you're the first son or the first daughter or you're the brother to the boss or the founder. So I think it's about matching your skills, and that's kind of a sensitive issue because many families just assume things and just be like, this is the first son, he has to be in charge. Does he want to? Does he want to even work in your business? Because it doesn't help the business if it's not sustainable. If someone is stressed or burnt out or not capable or doesn't want to be there. So I think it's a hard conversation to have, but I think it's also a useful one. It's an honest one. You need to have these conversations with your family about who is doing what. It's important to have clear roles in a family business. And I'm getting more and more questions about family business, and I'm happy to answer them because I have experience working with my family and a lot of my friends who have also guided me and helped me when I am stuck or I don't know what to do. I also turn to them and ask, how did you maneuver this? How did you manage this? How did you get through this as a family? Because everything spills over. So I think with family business, firstly, you're always working. Like we can be at a wedding or at a birthday or like at someone's dinner and we're talking about work. Oh, did you see this email? Oh, did you send that? Did you get this done? And then also at work, you're with your family. So it's you have to keep those roles like separate and clear. Personally, I don't really like to open personal messages during the workday because I'm busy, it distracts me, and like it changes the gear you're in. So I think also working with family, it's important not to, oh, we sat and just started, chatting and laughing at the office about stuff that's not work. Because it also, you have to think about the team you work with. Not everyone is from the family, and you don't want to build resentment or people to think you're there just because you're a family member. So it's important that you show value and that you take it seriously. Because I think also a lot of people take it for granted. You think, okay, I can work in the family business, they'll never fire me. I can just take the money. I don't need to put in time. I can be late. I don't need to show up. So I think that kind of stuff is also demoralizing for the people who work there every day and who take it seriously. And if you take it seriously as a family and as your business, then individually you need to take it seriously. You need to show up for things. You need to read things before you arrive for the meeting and not just have this expectant attitude of the paid employees will tell you what to do or what's needed. So there are many small things. Another thing I mentioned in the video is you need to be able to listen. Because a lot of the time, family members assume they know what's best for the company because you've been in the company the longest. Just because you've been around them since you were a kid, or you've always worked there on the side, or you're in the charge, you're the leader, doesn't mean that you always have the right answers or you have the most experience, because sometimes you have managers or staff or junior staff who are the ones dealing with your customers every day, who are the ones dealing with your suppliers, who are the ones managing processes that you are not, you're aware of what's going on, but you're not doing it in and out every day, right? So the person who's doing that all day is the person who has more experience and understanding. So it's important to listen to them. This is something I learned really early on from my dad. He really loves to ask people questions, and it drives all the senior managers crazy because you see him walking around speaking to like the Askaris or speaking to some junior member of staff who he didn't even like. He wasn't there when they hired them. He's not really sure what they're doing, but he said, "Huh? So tell me, in your job, how is this working? What do the customers tell you? What do you think of this?" And he really likes to get their opinion. And I'm just like, this frustrates the managers so much because, of course, people take advantage, and that's when they like share their problems or they complain about something or the manager did this. But you also get a lot of useful feedback because they hear things, they see things, they notice things that maybe a senior manager doesn't have time for. So it's always interesting for me to listen to what other people have to say. Even people who you think you know better because you're their supervisor doesn't mean you have the same perspective. Different perspectives is useful. You want as much information about your business as possible. Feedback, remember, feedback is the breakfast of entrepreneurs. Is that the phrase? I think that's the saying. So you want as much feedback as you can, and feedback doesn't only come directly from customers. It also comes from your staff, from your team, because they deal with the customers, they deal with the stakeholders. So they also know, and they also have ideas. They see trends, they have suggestions. But many cultures, like corporate cultures or like a family business culture, it's one way. Instructions come from the top down. It's not that you're having town halls often or like having open meetings or you build the environment where people feel comfortable to speak up. There's so many systems where the staff and the team does not feel comfortable to talk to the family members or to talk to the CEOs or to talk to the boss and say, you know what, this is a big problem and no one is telling you. And I've seen that happen in companies, man. It's bad because by the time that problem just keeps growing and everyone is too scared to tell the boss, it is so bad and the reputation of the company has been ruined. And now people all know, oh, don't use that company. This is what they do. This is how they are. And the person in charge and making decisions has no idea because they didn't cultivate an environment where people can speak up freely. You have to be able to have relationships with your team where they can tell you the truth and they're not scared that you're going to get upset or that you can't take the criticism or that the company can't handle the feedback. Because you'd rather know the truth, the sooner the better. It's important. But it takes a very conscious effort as a leader to create that kind of work environment, especially in Africa. We have one of those, our culture has a very high distance gap. So our hierarchies in our culture, the boss, the next level, even in families, the father, the wife, then the children, like the elders, the grandparents, and like that, we have a high distance gap, which means the juniors don't feel comfortable speaking up to the elders. It's like a taboo in our culture. Don't talk back. Don't speak to your parents that way. You can't tell your boss that he's wrong. You can't tell people this. And many countries, I've seen a study on this. Some countries have small distance gaps, like in Europe, where the senior manager and the junior manager, there's a very small gap. They can tell each other the same things. They eat lunch together. They use the same bathrooms. But then cultures like in Asia, or in Africa, we have a high distance gap. And I remember seeing this study, and what struck me was, in planes, a pilot and a co pilot, they have to work as a team, right? The pilot is in charge and the co pilot is their junior. But when something is going wrong, the co pilot has to speak up, right? They have to tell the pilot, I think you're making a mistake, or this is an issue. And in countries, or the pilots who come from countries where they have a high distance gap, they have more plane crashes because the junior is too scared to call out the pilot and say, you're doing the wrong thing. I don't think we should do this. And so you lose that advantage of having two people. Because the system was designed by people who come from countries with small distance gaps, they assume that co-pilot is enough accountability. It's enough to check the pilot. But if, for example, you come from an African country, you're not going to tell the pilot that I think you're making a mistake. You're going to sit there quietly as a co-pilot and watch the plane crash. It's like, oh my God, how can that make such a big difference? But it's so true. We have this mentality of that's the boss. You can't say this to the boss. You can't do this to the boss. There's so many offices where people use different bathrooms. They don't sit together at lunch. They don't greet each other. They don't acknowledge juniors. And I've seen so many different ways that people do this, but there's high distance gaps and low distance gaps. And sometimes I'll see it even with foreign companies in Uganda. You can see how the staff are more integrated. I went to a startup's office, and it's a company that has people from all different countries all over the world, and they all sit and eat lunch together. They all eat Ugandan food in like this big buffet in their office. I was like, that's the cutest thing, because we don't do that. We still have these hierarchies and gaps, and this is for managers, and that one is for this, and this one they all order their own lunch. Like, it's different, and it's small things like that, I think, that help your work environment, because someone has a different perspective from you, and you need that information. So fight the culture. Even with you, it's difficult. A lot of the comments I get from the podcast, people are so amused that that's how I speak to my dad. I'm like, I understand where you're coming from because we still have a culture of children don't speak back to their parents or disagree openly or have these discussions. But I'm lucky in our household, we've always been like this. And I've always been able to speak back to my parents. I think also going to international schools, they said I got spoiled by the foreigners. And I remember maybe when I was 16, my dad is just like, how can you talk to me like this? He was so confused and like, where did I get this nerve or confidence? I think now he appreciates it, especially because we work together and we have such an open relationship. It's so much easier. So if I don't talk to him about something, he's very surprised. Like if he ever finds out something about one of his kids, he's like, no, 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 no. I know my children very well. There's nothing that we can ever do or say that will surprise him. And he appreciates that now. And he says it. He's like, I never want to hear you did this or you said this, and it shocks me. I need to know who you are. So he now sees the value in having a smaller distance gap. Yeah, it's annoying when sometimes he'll say something and I disagree with him. Last week we were lost. We were walking around and I was trying to tell him this is not the way to go. And he was not listening because he thought he was right. And I was polite about it, but I was insisting and I was showing him, I told you so. This is the way we're supposed to go, and you're not listening to me. And I could have just kept quiet and we keep wandering around for hours till we find the place. But I had to speak up. And I'm not scared to do that. So I think it's the same culture we try to have in our companies, and he does that too. There's no one in a Simba group who is too scared to talk to chairman. And what he does that's also so annoying to all of us as managers, he gives his personal phone number to everybody. You'll be having these big meetings or like town hall style, what we do like once a year or every 6 months, and it's the entire team. It's like 300 people in a room for each business. And he's like, if there's any problem, you can call or WhatsApp me at any time. Here is my number. Are you ready? 077. And I'm just like, oh God, this is just opening problems for us. Because yes, it's good to get the feedback, but at least half of those messages, boss, I need a loan. Boss, I need a promotion. Boss, I need a raise. Boss, this is like, it is wild the things people will tell him. But we would rather have that, and it doesn't stress him to have all these hundreds of messages all the time, rather than a company where people are too scared to speak up and to tell us, by the way, this is going on. Sometimes like managers will come to me with the tea, madam, I need to see you. I'm like, okay, what's going on? If it's a work thing, of course there's a process and a system, because you don't want to undermine the managers in the system. Have you talked to your supervisor about this? What is going on? Have you talked to HR? Have you spoken to the general manager? Why do you need me to intervene? Sometimes they just bring you tea from the company. This one is dating this one, and now it's not fair because they are making decisions from home when we're all supposed to be involved. And I'm like, oh my God. But at least they feel comfortable to come and tell me these things, even awkward things, even personal things. And it helps because when someone is struggling with something in their personal life and it's affecting their work, it helps if the team at the office knows what's going on, so you can help to make a better environment for them. Give them some time off, or get their team to support them, or listen to them in this way, or give them flexi hours. There's so many different things you can do once you have the information. But what I'm saying is, what's important is to get that information. Feedback is so important. You always need to get feedback from your customers, feedback from your suppliers, your stakeholders, anyone who is involved in your business, your neighbors, the people who give you the license, KCCA person you have to deal with, whoever it is, you need to be getting feedback about your business. And coming from your staff, that is one of the most key areas, because your staff is a major stakeholder. Because if your staff are miserable, if they know something that you don't know, if they don't feel like they're in a good work environment, they're not going to be good at what they do. And that's going to affect your company. It's going to affect your customers. It's going to affect your brand. So it's really important that you cultivate that. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy or it can be done overnight, but it makes a difference if you put in the effort. And I think as individuals, you can put in the effort. There's a lot of things in our family business that were not this way when I started, and I have had to change some things. My parents have changed some things. Different managers add their own touch, and you can see it, and you can sense by the team and the staff and the morale and the different things. So there's always changes that you can make, and it's important that you do that. All right, I only have 5 minutes, so let's do a question. I see. There's a question about relatives. How do you deal with dishonest relatives? Do you leave them out of the business or do you stay with them? This one is a tricky question because, like I said, family businesses, a lot of the time you're dealing with people who you don't you would not have chosen to work with them, right? They are your family members, so they're already in the business. So you have to see how to maneuver things professionally. I think if you have a dishonest relative, you need to have an honest conversation with them. Why are they doing what they're doing? Do they have pressure from home? They have school fees, debts they need to pay? Why are they stealing money or doing something in the wrong way? You need to assess that and talk to them about it. Life is full of hard conversations, and honestly, a hard conversation is a short thing to suffer through rather than suffering for months with a problem that can grow out of hand. Yet, if you just had a frank conversation with them and you see, can you actually get this to the root of the problem? Can you solve this, or do you need to change things? Do you need to move them? I also think when you're hiring and firing friends and family, you need to know, if I hire you, I have the ability to fire you. It's a hard thing to do, but you need to be clear about that upfront. If you are working with us, this is what we expect from you. Communicate that clearly. You need to show up at work this time to this time. You need to deliver these things every week. These ones are the ones for every month. You communicate clearly what you expect a person to do. Then you give them the support that they need. Do you know how to do this? Do you have the budget for it? Do you have a phone, a computer, whatever you need? This is how you're going to get it done. And now give them the space to do it. Trust them, support them, encourage them. If they fail, be prepared to show them, this is what you did wrong, this is what you did wrong, this is what you did wrong. So unfortunately, you can't stay with us. I hope you can understand. I know it's very difficult. Might be awkward at the next wedding I see you at, but we shall move forward. Because the alternative is, now you have this dishonest relative who is sabotaging the company or taking out money, or a difficult friend, and now you're stuck with them. So I get a lot of people, like my friends and relatives, who are like, oh, can I supply this? Oh, can I work with you in this way? Oh, can we get this work? And I'm always like, sure, but this is what I expect. It's a business, and my business will not suffer because of our relationship. So if you're going to supply us, this is what we need, and it needs to be competitive prices. I'm not going to buy your mangoes just because I know you, yet someone else is giving me at half the price. I be honest with you, upfront, transparent. This is what we expect. This is what we need. If you can deliver, I am happy to give you the business. If you can't, I will not. And I'll give you the chance. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. No hard feelings. Sorry. And I would expect the same treatment with someone. You need people to be honest with you. And I think that's something that we really struggle with as a society. People like to have these comfortable, polite, pretend conversations. I don't think that's an easy way to move forward. Sometimes I'm told me I'm not diplomatic enough, but I don't think it's diplomatic to pretend. I'd rather we deal with the things up front and we move forward. Everyone moves on with their life with a clean heart. You sleep well at night. You know you didn't lie, you didn't cheat, you didn't steal. You weren't dishonest. It's not awkward. You deal with things as they happen. I think that's what's helpful. Okay. I think we also have a question from Instagram, but I have to open it. In my rush to set this up, I did not open it. What have you learned along the way that you wouldn't pass on in the family business mistakes? Ooh, that's an interesting question. In our family business, what I wouldn't pass on. I fight with my family a lot about governance. They think I'm super like structured and annoying. But I think because the family business starts small and it grows, I feel like in our family, my dad and some of the senior managers who've been there a long time, they've seen the company be really small and they're used to doing so many things. But now it's really big. There's too many employees, there's too many moving parts, there's so much going on. You can't be as involved in every small thing, and you need to be way more vigilant about like paperwork, about meetings and minutes of the meeting, agendas. And my dad is always like, don't bring for me those foreign corporate things. I'm just like, Daddy, there are certain things we have to do as a company because now we've grown to a certain size. It is not one Simba shop that you get to show up every day and know the whole team and greet every customer. There's so many people, there's so many outlets, there's so many different sectors we're working in. And I think it's hard for him to adjust. So that's something I would warn other families. The sooner you start to put in things in place that you're going to need in the long term, the better. It's something I always encourage entrepreneurs. Yes, you don't want to register legally and start paying taxes on your first day of a business, but you need to know what you're going to require. You don't want to get to year 7 and you're trying to get a loan or a grant and you can't because you don't have audited accounts or because you're not legally registered or you don't know anything about taxes. At least learn what you need upfront and start doing it. Even if you're not going to register legally and pay taxes for the first year, at least know what records you need to be keeping because it gets so much harder later. And I see so many entrepreneurs struggle with this. You have been working for 5 years and now you're missing an opportunity because you just don't have paperwork. You don't know how much money your company has been making in and out for the last 3 years. Yeah, sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's like that. I take out personal loans, I put in money in the business. It's all over the place. And I think that's a very old school mentality, and it's very informal. And in our society, a lot of our businesses start informally and then they grow. You have to hope and wish and pray your company will grow, right? You want it to grow. So begin with the end in mind. Have that vision. How would the company run when we have 5,000 employees? What's the big dream? And then what are the processes I need to put in place now and learn how to do? Because you can't just grow there without putting in some things early, without learning how to have that. It's hard because you do grow organically and you don't want to spend money on things. Just getting office budgets with my dad. Oh my gosh. He wants to like check how much milk are you buying? How much toilet paper is this? I'm like, Daddy, please. It's an office. There's 40 people who work there. Let them have a monthly budget that's just approved. And then the secretaries or the admin people will make sure that they never run out of coffee or toilet paper or air freshener or water. You don't need to check every small thing. It's like that's how they waste money. That's how that you don't know what's going on in the business. You have to be involved. Just like my friend. Only in the last year have we switched to doing like payments digitally. My father likes to sit with every check, and every check has to come with like things stapled, like all the evidence of why we're paying this check. If we are buying 100 mangoes this week, he wants to see the invoice, he needs to see everything. Okay, let me sign the mangoes. I'm like, Daddy, you cannot keep signing 100 checks a week for the rest of your life. It's just not efficient. So finally, because of COVID, now he was paranoid about touching the checks. I was like, aha, this is my opportunity. We gotta move digital. They can put the evidence there, you can see it, and you'll know. His mind is amazing. He knows the price of mangoes, milk, everything that he signs every week. He knows the price and he remembers. So if there's any slight change, he'll be like, why are we buying this many apples this month? Huh? Last month we didn't buy this many apples in this hotel. The other hotel bought this. Why are you buying it this one? I only signed a check for sausages for Skies, not for PHK. He notices everything. So I can understand how he wants to continue that structure. But I think also it's a limiting mentality because you have to grow to a certain level. You have to also give managers space and trust them in their roles. So I think a lot of the bad habits are skipping the old systems that you had when the company was small, yet the company is so much bigger now. So governance. Arm yourself with information so that you know what you need to grow into. Oh la la, I'm now late. I think that's the last question I saw. How do I join? I hope you have joined. Okay, I hope that's it. I will see you next week. Ladies, you can join the Her group. The link is on all my social media. It's in my bio on Instagram. If you have other questions, you can send me a DM. Have a lovely weekend.